So these videos of Diddy with Justin Bieber when he was only 15 years old are resurfacing, and the one thing that I want to ask is, why was a 40-year-old hanging around with a 15-year-old?
She set her husband's private on fire after he cheated on her.
I'm back, it's your boy Fittie to the E, and welcome back to another creepy TikTok videos. If you guys leave a like, God gonna treat you right. The like goal for this video is 1,000 likes. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to subscribe. If you like the chain, check the link down in the description.
This is why you should never trust strangers you meet on vacation. When Ben and Louise Dalton take a trip to Italy with their daughter Agnes, they befriend a charming British family that persuades them to visit their remote country estate in England. And the Daltons are hesitant to accept the invitation at first, but they decide it might just be the trip they need. But once they get to Patty and Kira's remote, secluded farmstead, far away from anyone and everything they've ever known, Ben, Louise, and Agnes discover that who they thought this British family was on vacation isn't exactly who they are at home. And over the course of the trip, they spot several red flags, but each time Patty assures them that there is good reason for his unique behavior. But when the daughter Agnes discovers that something evil is about to happen to the family, they've had enough. But it might just be too late. But if you want to know what happens next, you'll need to check out Speak No Evil in theaters now.
Okay, so are we gonna die in 8 minutes? Okay, so the sun may have exploded and we wouldn't even know it for at least 8 minutes. Light from the sun takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds to hit Earth. Meaning if the sun suddenly blew up, we actually wouldn't know for that period of time. This is because light travels faster than anything else and we wouldn't be able to hear an explosion from space. While this can cause a lot of anxiety, our sun will never explode. It doesn't have enough mass to create a supernova. A star needs to have a mass of 10 times that of our sun in order for it to explode. If the sun were to explode, it would take around 134 days for the shockwave to reach Earth. But the neutrinos and radiation travel at the speed of light and would reach us in 8 minutes and we would all die. So realistically, we can all die in 8 minutes at any given time in our life, because we would have no idea that the sun exploded in that time. This is extremely scary, not only because we would all die, but because it's completely out of anyone's control.
Celebrities who changed their looks after becoming famous. Doja
But
Cat.
the thing is, like,
Before.
it's like a peekaboo to, like, what's next. So, like, once you see it from the front, like, that.
And now.
Who made it? Wow. Okay, so something a little different. So, what was your inspiration for tonight?
Sam Smith.
Before. You would have thought the more that you travel, the more okay you get with flying, but I'm finding it really hot.
And now. Melanie Martinez. Before. And now.
This is a sneak peek that nobody knows about. So people have been asking about the Crybaby perfume restock, and we can't do that just because the manufacturer doesn't exist anymore.
Bro, what's this trend going around with all these celebrities as soon as they get super famous? Like, you know, they start out normal, they're like, yeah, you know, it's really cool making millions of dollars just singing about whatever. And then boom, out of sudden they're just demons, just like, yeah, devil, devil, devil.
She set her husband's private on fire after he cheated on her. Virginie Narayan lived in Adelaide, Australia with her husband Satish Narayan. They got married in July of 1986 and had a typical arranged Hindu marriage. Within that month, Satish had started to physically and verbally abuse Virginie. Virginie felt like this was all of her fault and she deserved how he was treating her. Virginie kept thinking to herself, if only she was the perfect wife, this wouldn't be happening to her. This would go on throughout their whole relationship. In December of 2008, Virginie found out that Satish was having an affair with another woman. As they were laying in bed together, she decided she was going to confront him about the allegations. Satish did nothing to console Virginie, who was hurt, frustrated, and angry. Instead, he called her a fat B-word. At that moment, Virginie lost control. She doused him in gasoline and lit his private area on fire with an angel candle that a fortune teller had gave her. With doing this, Satish lost his life. Virginie claimed that she didn't intend to unalive Satish, she just wanted to purify his private area and to stop the affair with the other woman. Virginie was acquitted of murder, convicted of manslaughter, and sentenced to 6 years in prison. The Supreme Court ended up overturning the verdict and released her on a 3-year, $1,000 good behavior bond.
What I'm trying to figure out is, how did the husband let that happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, was he sleeping and then she was just like, freak this dude, gag. Or was he just there just like, yeah, baby, light me up, shorty?
So these videos of Diddy with Justin Bieber when he was only 15 years old are resurfacing, and the one thing that I want to ask is, why was a 40-year-old hanging around with a 15-year-old? Why did no one think that was an issue or a red flag? And also, listen to what he says in this clip.
They're having the times of their lives, like you know, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. You know, I have been given custody of him. You know, he signed to Usher. I had legal guardianship of Usher when you know he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full crazy.
I'm going crazy.
Crazy.
I'm taking this out tonight.
What you want to do? What you want to do over the next 48 hours?
This is literally the definition of grooming. And Justin, who was only 15 here, he was new to the industry and definitely very impressionable. Now that all these new allegations of Diddy have been exposed, it makes watching this video so much more disturbing. Now, this next video of Justin Bieber with Trey Songz and Odell Beckham years ago at one of Diddy's parties is questionable. I'm not going to say anything, but you let me know what you think you saw down here.
Tell me why, like, last night I actually saw that TikTok video. I'm like, hey, yo, is Justin Bieber giving Odell the guac 10,000? But then I was just like, nah. I looked in the comments and a bunch of people were like, oh, well, they actually looked like they were just doing drags. They were just, you know what I'm saying? And then I was just like, that makes sense.
Top 5 most Christian countries in the world by highest percentage of Christian adherence. Russia 73.6, United States 79.5, Brazil 90.2, Philippines 93.1, Mexico 95.
These are the top 5 craziest things revealed by this year's unprecedented global droughts. So at number 5 is the creepy hunger stones in Germany and Czech Republic. They were used to mark desperately low river levels and forecast famines. This one from 1616 says, if you see me, cry. In 4th place is Hitler's Black Sea Fleet, which sank in 1944. A whopping 10,000 explosive devices were found hidden within the exposed wreckages. In 3rd place, we've seen the extreme drought over in China reveal 3 ancient Buddha statues that are estimated to be over 600 years old. In 2nd place, and moving over to the USA, the droughts in Texas have revealed unbelievably well-preserved dinosaur footprints that date back more than 100 million years. And then the number 1 wildest thing that these droughts are exposing is a whole lot of dead bodies. Now, there's been reports of dead bodies being found in drying lakes around the world, but none more than in Lake Mead near Las Vegas. So far, there has been 4 separate discoveries, one of which was the body of a man found crammed inside a rusting metal barrel. Experts are predicting that dozens, if not hundreds more, might be found.
A gang of vicious otters attacked an innocent jogger and left her hospitalized. The 8 hungry beasts charged through a recreation park looking for...
How you nearly get packed up by a group of otters? I've seen a lot of comments saying that, you know, making fun of the woman, and you know me, I'm not gonna miss a chance to spread the gospel on this malicious, mame-happy tube warrior with teeth. Y'all know about the honey badger, an aggressive bull-cut bully weasel, a certified felony ferret with an alleged affinity for ball biting, a homicidal mobile Oreo that fades venomous snakes as a side hustle. Call it an erectile dysfunction the way they could put a snake out of order. There was one honey badger who nearly got senses subtracted by a group of lions, spent weeks in an animal ER just to get released and immediately try to run it back fresh out. We been knew this bush weasel is a literal manifestation of a walking middle finger, but imagine if they were a little more intelligent, ran in packs, and could run fades on land or water. Well, I just described why you otter put respect on this furry halo effect assault sausage. Otters are in the same family as wolverines and honey badgers. They're just social and considered more intelligent. And believe me, a river otter on its own is already a cell block D menace. I couldn't even tell you what crime's getting committed here. And they're a whole lot less cute when you've seen them massacre a monkey at a zoo. That is a Jujutsu Kaisen level jumping with a waterboarding for dessert. Then you got the fact that otters in the Amazon can grow to 6 feet long, and I'm an honest 5'11". And you can kind of see how a hydrodynamic hood-affiliated honey badger can attitude adjust a jaguar. Look at that, all gas, just in reverse, dead ass like a donkey in a hearse. So before you go making fun of this woman, understand that gang violence is not a laughing matter, especially when it's otter mafia.
The otters did her crazy. I'm thinking like, couldn't she just run away? I don't know if otters are that fast out of water, but me personally, I would have just did the dash. And if that didn't work, bro, I'm fighting, bro. I'm fighting all of them. That would be kind of hard, but I'm still doing it.
Here are 3 of the most disturbing facial reconstructions and the chilling backstories behind them. But before we get started, I did make a YouTube channel for everybody who requested. If you want to subscribe, the link is right in the bio. Alright, let's get into it. Number 1. The Irondequoit Jane Doe. Found buried in a shallow grave in New York State, the manner of death was ruled as suspicious, but there were no signs of trauma found on her body. Once found, her remains were so badly decomposed that it's suspected she may have been buried there for up to 30 years before being uncovered. Number 2. The Philadelphia teen. Discovered to have been shot and possibly burned, his remains were found near the railroad tracks in Philadelphia in 1977, and he was the victim of a horrific homicide. To this day, he has never had any friends or family that have come forward to claim his identity, and he remains unknown. Number 3. The Swimsuit Boy. He is one of the only unidentified bodies to come from the Dean Corll serial killings. Discovered buried beneath the shed, among others, his remains were wearing a multicolored swimsuit, hence the name. And it's not at all that this is a bad reconstruction. It's actually unsettling to me because it's pretty good. When you're looking at it, it's almost like the eyes are looking right back at you. It's that realistic. But what makes it all that more eerie is that it's linked to a missing boy that no one has ever claimed.
And this was the moment she was caught poisoning her husband. Not once, not twice, but multiple times. It all started when U.S. Air Force employee Roby Johnson was stationed in Germany back in March of 2023. With him was his wife Melody Johnson, who had filed for divorce, but they still lived together while it was being finalized. He began noticing that his morning cup of coffee was tasting a bit weird, but continued on drinking it for around 3 weeks. He eventually decided to test it with a pull test strip, and it showed high levels of chlorine. That is when he launched his own internal investigation and caught her in the act. She was caught multiple times on video pouring bleach into his coffee maker. Now, he didn't want to raise any alarms in Germany, so he waited, kept pretending to drink the coffee until they were back in Arizona in June. While back at the Air Force Base, he recorded her doing it yet again and reported it to police. Now, they told him the evidence wasn't quite clear enough, so he decided to enhance his setup. More and better cameras disguised as smoke alarms, which caught her clear as day. She was arrested, and he fully believes that she was out to get his life insurance money. Imagine living with someone for months knowing that they are actively trying to kill you.
Yo, that got better than me, because right there and then I would have been on her so crazy. I'd have been like, yo, I know you trying to kill me, shorty. Bro, that got better than me, bro. And like, she don't think that someone would smell bleach? Like, I feel like you could easily taste and smell bleach because that's a strong substance. Bleach is not somewhere it's just like, oh, you know, maybe it's just like the coffee just like was just cleaned with bleach. Like, no, you can, hey, like, it's strong.
Times when companies dissed others, part 3. In 2001, Coca-Cola announced they sold 4 more times than Pepsi. So Pepsi, being salty, decided to create this whole ad of a boy going to a vending machine, getting 2 Cokes from the vending machine, just so he can stand on the cans and get a Pepsi. They are honestly ruthless for this. Next, in 2014, Mercedes made a commercial showing how a chicken can keep their head still while their bodies move, saying Mercedes can do the same thing with their car stability. However, the car company Jaguar saw this and decided to make almost the exact same commercial. But at the end, a jaguar straight up destroys the chicken. That's cruel.
This gymnast forgets to salute to the judges, and they get very butthurt about that. So the gymnast lands it well, but now is the point where he should salute to the judges, but he forgets that. And this is what the judges do. As you can see, they took it really personally. Do you think he can be forgiven?
2024 just got even crazier, part 16. Firstly, a Canadian man who was about to go on an upcoming camping trip used Google Maps to see the area that he was going to be camping. Well, while on Google Maps, the man discovered this, and experts believe that the man just discovered a very possible ancient meteor impact while on Google Maps. The fact that he found this using Google Maps is wild.
Next, also in Canada, a woman who was at a barbecue started playing with these water guns with a child. Well, while playing with the water guns, she accidentally sprayed the neighbor who was cutting grass next door. Well, the man got angry and called the police, and somehow the woman was charged with assault with a weapon. Finally, a 57-year-old man was about to have burgers when the burgers were frozen together. So he got a kitchen knife to separate the burgers, but while he tried to separate them, he accidentally stabbed himself and the man unfortunately passed away. R.I.P. This is horrible.
Whatever you do, do not look up what this guy did. Now, you may know this guy, TJ Lane. He did a horrific school shooting back in 2012. You probably don't know what then happened when he went to court. For one, you can see him with little to no remorse in the court, smirking, smiling, along with a shirt he was wearing which had the word killer written on it. His lawyer then whispered to him to basically make a statement and tell him what to say. When TJ then said something you would never imagine after doing this, he basically said, "This hand that unalived your families now pleasures to the memory." I can't show the video of this for obvious reasons and I can't talk too much about it on here, but the full video is on my YouTube, link in my bio. But what this guy did is absolutely horrific, and the fact he then went and did that in court as well, like, what is wrong with people?
So why do these places make you feel that way? These are called liminal spaces. They are literally the threshold between two realities. For example, a rest stop is a place between where you started and where you're going. These places are not meant for you to stay in very long. So you feel a sensation of reality shifting when you stay in those places for longer than you normally would. The same goes for schools during summer break or laundromats at night, and I think you got my point.
How to summon the Ceiling Man. It is said that if the Ceiling Man finds you worthy, he'll grant you a wish. If deemed unworthy, he'll curse you with depression and a lot more. To summon the Ceiling Man, we'll have to get a mirror. The mirror will be need to placed on the floor in an empty room. Make sure you're seeing the reflection of the ceiling in the mirror when placed on the floor. With a lamp or candle, you say the word, "Ceiling Man, I am worthy," 20 times. The Ceiling Man will eventually appear in the mirror. You look into the mirror and you say, "Ceiling Man, I am ready for my wish." You wait for a voice that says, "Be careful, if the Ceiling Man finds you unworthy, your face will look like this in the mirror, disoriented." Should I summon the Ceiling Man tonight on live?
Does a photo like this make you feel uncomfortable? Or something like this? This phenomenon is known as the Uncanny Valley. Introduced by Masahiro Mori in the 1970s, the Uncanny Valley refers to a phenomenon where our brains can register that something is very close to human, but we're also aware that something's not quite right. It's the in-between, where we can process that something looks like a person, but it's not a person, and it causes feelings of distress. Believed to be an evolutionary mechanism, which is also not exclusive to just humans, the Uncanny Valley is where we perceive these things to be a threat or not of us, and it can cause feelings of panic. One of the most well-known modern examples of this was actually an early test screening of Shrek in 2000, where Fiona was rendered as very hyper-realistic. So realistic that it surpassed the threshold of comfort and cartoon and moved into the Uncanny Valley. Children actually became so panicked at this screening, they were reported to be crying at the movie anytime she came on the screen. The entire film had to be halted and she was re-rendered. I'm not sure if this was the actual earliest version of Fiona that made it to the screening, but to put this in context, the one that made it to worldwide theaters is right above. But I did happen to find this monster from some of the early test footage of Shrek. The Uncanny Valley is still a widely unstudied phenomenon, but it continues to become more and more pervasive in entertainment as well as our modern animation.
Am I the only one that actually kind of did not feel uncomfortable looking at all those images? Like, I don't know. It wasn't too crazy. It was like, okay.
Run, run, run. Run, run.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. Being buried alive accidentally occurred so often that people invented safety coffins. In the Middle Ages, people used to eat mummies for medical purposes. It's the main reason we don't have a lot of mummies left today. In the United States, there are more vacant homes than homeless people. Did you know that the actress Glenn Close was raised in a cult? The Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland used to have real skeletons as props. In 1976, a TV crew realized one of the hanging bodies in the Laugh in the Dark ride was indeed a real body by accidentally breaking it. Women in the 18th century used lead as makeup. This is the first chainsaw. It was invented by 2 Scottish doctors. And it was invented for childbirth. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 4.
I feel like a chainsaw for childbirth is a little extreme, if I do say so myself.
You might not think it, but this is the deadliest cat on the planet. It's called the African black-footed cat, and it stands at just 8 to 10 inches tall, weighs between 2 and 4 pounds, which is roughly 200 times less than your typical lion. But don't be fooled, because this thing is deadly. It captures more prey in one single night than a leopard does in 6 months. They can walk up to 20 miles a night in search of prey, and have an accelerated metabolism which makes them hunt almost non-stop. For perspective, lions succeed in catching their prey roughly 20 to 25% of the time. This little bastard has a success rate of a whopping 60%. That is the highest hit rate of any wild cat, making it the deadliest on Earth.
The whole time bro saying deadliest cat, I'm thinking they could harm humans. Whole time these people are just hunting like their normal prey. Yo, if it could harm humans though, that would be crazy.
Here's 3 animals you're glad that are extinct. This is the Gigantopithecus, measured to be 10 feet tall, and its teeth were named dragon teeth. The saber-toothed tiger had teeth that could grow over 8 inches, and the tigers themselves could weigh over 400 kilograms. And finally, the megalodon was a monster that roamed the sea. It's known as the biggest fish to ever live, and its diet would consist of dolphins, seals, and whales.
So this man over here decided to transition into a woman so that he can avoid going to a man's prison. If for some reason you don't think this is messed up, I don't know what to tell you. In 2016 and 2019, a 31-year-old Adam Graham, who was first a man, attacked and AR'd 2 women. Adam claimed to have gender issues since the age of 4, but he only started transitioning in 2020 after he was charged. He changed his name from Adam to Isla, and now he's serving time in a women's prison in Scotland. So you're telling me that a man who was charged and found guilty of the RAP of 2 women was put in a facility filled with women? To me, it's just alarming how no one thought that this would be a safety concern for a woman, especially because of what he was charged with. Someone make it make sense.
Every country in the world exports the most of Part 1. United States, aircraft. Germany, drugs. Switzerland, blood. Brazil, coffee. China, computers.
Things humans were never meant to see. Okay, firstly, we've all seen alligators poke their head out of water, and it's pretty terrifying when they do this. However, this is what their body looks like underneath the water. And this honestly makes alligators seem a lot less scary. This is what water looks like on fire. How is this even possible? Okay, next, in World War II, the US made inflatable tanks that were used as decoys in the war. This is genius. We were not meant to see this. This man threw boiling water off his balcony, and it instantly turned to snow. And this is a super rare sheepfish. It's a snail that has the head of a sheep and the body of a plant.
Can you imagine entering a home for a showing and finding the homeowners dead? Well, that's exactly what happened to billionaire Honey and Barry Sherman. This December is going to be 7 years since their gruesome unaliving, and police still don't have any idea who did this. What's crazy is that they were found by their realtor with their clients inside their Toronto mansion with their necks tied with belts beside their pool. Barry Sherman was the founder of Apotex, one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world. The way Barry and his wife exited this world was very cruel, and a lot of people actually think that their son had something to do with this. There's a handful of suspicious people in this case, but many think that it was their son because this person was very close to them and knew the ins and outs of their mansion very, very well. Their kids actually inherited around $3 billion each, which is crazy. I feel like this case has not been talked about the way it should be, and considering how much they did for the community and all the donations that they've contributed to is wild. Since this case has been open for several years and there's been no new evidence or suspects, people think that the government has something to do with their deaths. And not to mention, their mansion, aka the crime scene, was demolished immediately at the request of their own kids. That's not suspicious at all. Also, this case happened 10 minutes from where I live, so that's crazy. But if you guys want to check it out and learn more about this case and the new details and the new updates, make sure to check out my video on my YouTube channel.
Probably this. This is 51. Look, so this is 50. This is it. And yeah, nobody knows, but it's for sale. Look.
This
creepy story about Help Me. A teenage girl named Kathy was babysitting 2 kids. There was a 7-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl. Their parents went out to see a movie, and they wouldn't be home till late. Around 9 o'clock that night, the phone rang. Kathy answered the phone and heard a creepy voice saying, "Help me, for heaven's sake, help me." She immediately hung up and thought it was a prank. Then 30 minutes later, the phone rang again with the same voice saying, "Help me, somebody please help me." This time Kathy got scared. The children asked who it was, but she told them not to worry, it was fine. Another 30 minutes went by, and the phone rang one more time. The voice sounded scared and desperate this time, saying, "Help me, for heaven's sake, will somebody help me?" Then the phone went dead. Then seconds later, there was a knock at the front door, and she heard the same voice saying, help me," over and over again. Kathy says she's gonna let him in because he needs help. When the parents arrived home that night, they went into the house. Kathy and their children were laying dead in the living room with all their arms and legs cut off.
It's always so sad when you try to help someone and just for you to get the downside of helping them. It's always annoying when that happens. Like, that's an extreme situation, but there's been situations where people will help other people and there's always something bad that happens to the person that's doing the helping. And it's just like, bro, you needed my help and now I'm the one that's getting the repercussions for this. Like, come on.
Facts that sound fake but are actually true, part 1. You can actually live the rest of your life without any food. France was still executing people with a guillotine when the first Star Wars movie came out. There are more trees on Earth than there are stars in our galaxy. Shakespeare invented the name Jessica. In Jupiter, it rains diamonds. I have to move to Jupiter right now.
Random facts that will blow your mind, part 17. New York was once called New Amsterdam. The word goodbye came from God be with you. Mexico has the most external debt worldwide. Recycling a 3-foot stack of newspaper can save 1 tree.
Urban legends you wish you never knew, part 3. The Catman. This isn't as innocent as it sounds. This urban legend comes from a small suburb in Norway. Legend has it that in the nearest forest, the Catman lived by himself in a hut that he built himself. You'd know if you got close to his hut because he had placed the cats on stakes all around his area. Some of the cats you would even see pinned on the trees. He supposedly snuck into neighborhoods of the nearby towns between 2 or 3 in the morning, and he would hunt down cats, strip their and sell their skin, and he would keep some of the cats to decorate his place. It is said that if you met him you would instantly freeze from a feeling of impending doom and go insane, because after he no longer had human eyes, but instead cat eyes. Needless to say, there were several aborted missions to locate his hut in the woods, but when people get to the edge of his field, that makes them wanna puke from fear, and they run away.
Here are some events that will happen by the year 2050. The sad truth is, by the year 2050, half of the world's population will not have access to clean drinking water. Half of the Amazon rainforest will be deforested, leaving many animals without any shelter at all. In 2025, SpaceX is sending their first cargo ship to Mars, and if all goes well, they are sending their first humans to Mars by the year 2050. So who knows, maybe by 2050 we will have the first civilization on Mars. Animals are getting more dangerous and more powerful every year. Animals are evolving every day, becoming more of a threat to society. I'm not talking about your regular house pet, I'm talking about wild animals. For instance, in 2020, we found the first flying spider, your worst nightmare. You thought the well, by 2050, there could be more deadly viruses affecting the world than ever before. You better keep that face mask. The population will be 9.6 billion.
All digital data in the world will get deleted in 2033, and this guy from the year 2062 just told us how. Yes, he claims to be a time traveler. They even connected him to a lie detector, and it all checked out as true. So Spotify reached out to sponsor this video to let us get to the bottom of this. His name is Peter Reuter, who says in November of 2022, patient 0 of a deadly virus started infection at JFK Airport. And in October 2023, a new variant of the virus known as Pegasus will spread to infect the entire world. Dr. Eliza Knight was assigned to Peter's case who tells her the end of the world is closer than we think. According to him, kids being born now will be known as the IP, or interpandemic generation, who will grow up glued to a screen and fearing social contact. In 2031, we finally establish our first colony on Mars, but that's nothing compared to the discovery we make there 11 years later. On March 30th, 2033, the world will experience the Great Deletion, in which an AI tasked with cleaning up junk files ends up deleting literally everything. Just imagine waking up one day with no email, no social media, your entire digital footprint is completely erased. Then, in August 2042, that colony on Mars uncovers an ancient city buried under the Martian surface, which apparently teaches us how to time travel. Ultimately, October 2053 is when the entire world crumbles for good. But then, the unexpected happens. Dr. Knight wakes up in the year 2012, where she's now the patient, and a familiar doctor is interviewing her about her mental health, which is the plot of Case 63, a Spotify original audio series which is oddly close to reality. Season 2 just dropped, so you can binge both seasons now and maybe even predict what's going to happen in our future.
For a second, I thought he was actually talking about our reality. I'm like, bro, there is no way by 2030, whatever the hell, we have a civilization on Mars. We're not even close to that. So it's like, that's a lie. And the fact that he said we time traveled in the past, is actually super hard to time travel to the past than to the future. So that one's a little bit sus, but I think he was saying just like a podcast episode or something like that.
3 disturbing movies you've probably never seen. This first movie is insane. It's called Flowers in the Attic, and it's about 4 siblings after their father passes away. Their mom takes them to their grandma's mansion, but things quickly go wrong because their grandma locks them in the attic and won't let them leave. Eventually, they also find out their mom is hiding a terrifying secret, and because the 4 of them are growing up without ever seeing anyone else, the relationship between the siblings starts to get unusual. Next, this movie has an insane plot twist. The autopsy of Jane Doe. The body of an unknown woman is found in the coroner and his son have to autopsy it. But soon they realize this woman is not normal. Basically, her internal organs are all messed up, but on the outside she looks fine. Then they find these strange symbols written inside her body. You'll never guess the plot twist. Last up, we have May. May is an outcast and the only friend she has is a doll named Susie. But one day this doll breaks and that leads her to do some pretty crazy things, because now she's determined to make herself a new friend. Follow for more.
Phone numbers you should never call, Part 7. This is the first phone number. It belonged to the Derry Police Department. When you call this number, a policeman will reply and tell you about some kids that went missing. But then Pennywise kills him and leaves you a disturbing message. This is the second phone number. When you call this number, a young woman will reply and with a desperate voice will cry, "Mommy, I'm going to die. I'm at the club. You need to come and get me." We don't know where it comes from, but it is said that this woman was kidnapped and killed by an unknown murderer.
The most historic case that has ever taken place in DC history is probably one that you have never even heard of. One of the scariest cases that I've read in a long time. This is the very true story of the Freeway Phantom. Now, in the 1970s, there was a man in Washington, D.C. who people named the Freeway Phantom because he had one very specific MO. He was only going after young black girls and women. He was abducting them off the street and then their bodies would be found here, left and positioned right at the freeway. Actually, in the investigation, they profiled him as someone who was a textbook psychopath. He was repeatedly calling the families after he had abducted these girls, and he was breathing into the phone, and then he would say something like, "I just killed your daughter," and then hang up. Even left a handwritten note with the body of one of his victims. If you want the full story on this, we are going to cover it on the show. Mysteriously, in the 90s, all the records on the case vanished.
That's so disgusting. Imagine like it was actually someone's daughter that died. Oh my gosh, I would crash out.
These are the creepiest unsolved photo mysteries. The Baltic Sea anomaly is known for being one of the most famous underwater mysteries on Earth. This sonar image from 2011 shows a large structure located at the bottom of the ocean. And if you're a Star Wars fan, it may look a little familiar to you. Many people believe that it could be a sunken UFO, or an ancient man-made structure that was lost to history. That, or Han Solo decided to move there and live his life in peace. Next, in 2016, a woman named Linda sent Belfast Live a disturbing photo that was taken from the year 1990. The photo shows a group of women in a factory with their arms crossed. One of these women was Linda's grandmother, Ellen Donnelly, and if you look closely at her shoulder, you can see a disembodied hand hovering over her. The photo quickly spread through the media, even making it to Snopes, where they were unable to debunk it, so always look over your shoulder. And finally, many people believe that the Madonna, or the White Lady, was caught on camera back in 1991 at the Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. On this night, Judy Huff Fells decided to take a stroll in one of the most haunted cemeteries in America, along with the local Ghost Research Society, when they felt an odd presence nearby. And when she took out her infrared camera and snapped a photo, she could see a woman sitting on a stone. And this is why you shouldn't wander around a cemetery at night.
Chilling last photos of people before they went missing, Part 1. Lars Mittank. Lars Mittank was a German backpacker travelling in Bulgaria in July 2014. While there, he supposedly took part in an altercation that resulted in a busted eardrum. His family and friends were worried after receiving cryptic texts from him saying he was being followed by 4 men. This image right here is from security camera footage which shows Lars sprinting out of the airport without his luggage. And the chilling last photo before he went missing is this one right here. After supposedly hopping a fence and running into the woods, Lars has not been seen since.
Welcome to Creep Time on TikTok with Silas Dean. Today we are covering the disappearance of Mara Murray. Mara is a 21-year-old college student studying nursing in Massachusetts in the year 2004. On February 9th, she sends an email to school letting them know she'll be gone for a week due to a family death. But no one in her family had died. Records that were obtained from her computer would show an earlier search on MapQuest for directions to Burlington, Vermont. At 3:40 p.m. on the same day, she would withdraw all of her money from a local ATM. At around 4 or 5 p.m., she takes off on this trip, having told no one, and just starts traveling up Interstate 91 North. Around 7:27 p.m., Mara's car is crashed on a sharp, snowy turn along Route 112 in New Hampshire, and a neighbor would call the police. Another driver who's returning home also passes her and offers to call for help. She pleads with him not to and insists that she's already called AAA. But phone records would later show that she never called AAA that night. The man carries on home, but decides to call 911 anyway. Between 7:27 and the police arriving at 7:46, Mara is gone. The car is found completely abandoned, and she's taken her cell phone and her credit cards, none of which have ever shown a record of being used since that night. That driver would be the last verified sighting of Mara. A witness would later come forward to report seeing a young person dressed in dark clothing traveling very quickly by foot around 8:30 p.m., roughly 4 to 5 miles up Route 112 on the same night. But it was never confirmed if this was Mara. It's been over 17 years since the disappearance, and the case has never been solved.
That's such a weird case, because it's like, why did she need to do all that? Like, why did she need to drive that far? Why did she need to drive in the snow? Why did she need to lie and tell her professor that she is not coming in because of a death in her family when that didn't even happen? Why did she deny help from other people? Like, you know, it's one of those cases where you kind of just have to think, like, why?
These are some dirty history facts that I guarantee you were never taught. And if you ever told your history teacher any of these, they'd definitely go, excuse me, what the fuck? The first toy was invented by Cleopatra. However, to actually make it work, she put angry bees inside of it. You know, so they would go... I can't lie, don't think that would pass Dragon's Den. Next up, the ancient Romans used stale urine as mouthwash. Cool, but why? We actually know that Benjamin Franklin had a MILF fetish. A letter that he wrote back in the day was actually found and confirmed this. However, the detail he went into within this letter, we're not gonna go there. There is a sign in Pompeii next to the fountain that translates to "please don't shit in the fountain." All I can think is, how many times did that have to happen for a sign to become necessary? And finally, cornflakes were invented to stop what rhymes with fastitation. It was believed that doing this to yourself was a big no-no. They thought stale foods helped fight this urge. That's cornflakes. Anywho.
3 disturbing movies on Netflix you need to watch. This first movie is insane. It's called Secret Obsession, and it's about a woman named Jennifer who gets in a car accident and loses all her memories. In the hospital, a man shows up claiming that he's her husband, but as soon as they go home, Jennifer realizes something is wrong, because at night all the doors are locked so she can't leave, and the pictures of them together are photoshopped. So who's this man pretending to be her husband, and what really happened to her? Next up, there's no other movie like this. It's called Annihilation. Lena is a biologist who joins a secret mission into an area called the Shimmer, a mysterious place that mutates the DNA of everything inside it. Everyone who's ever went in there disappeared, except her husband, who went missing for a year then randomly showed up. But something is wrong with him, and Lena is determined to go into the Shimmer herself and find out the truth. Last up, we have Apostle. This is about a man who finds out his sister is being held hostage at a religious cult. So he goes to the island where the cult is to try to rescue her, but he would never expect what he would find there. Follow for more.
I personally kind of interested in the first two. Like, what did she say? Secret Obsession and Annihilation. Like, those two are actually pretty, those are good concepts for a movie, I'm not gonna lie. If you guys have ever watched those, like all 3 of those movies, or just at least one out of the 3, Let me know how they are in the comments, because I might check them out.
Did you know the dark truth behind The Wizard of Oz? The original actor who played the Tin Man had to quit filming after only 10 days because he was dying from aluminum poisoning. The makeup they were using for the Tin Man was actually real aluminum, which absorbed through his skin and into his lungs. He then suffered with respiratory problems for the rest of his life. During the poppy field scene, the falling snow looks beautiful, but in reality, the cast was actually being dusted and poisoned. The snow that was used in this scene was actually asbestos, a known carcinogen. The lion costume that the Cowardly Lion wears was made out of a real lion hide, which was so hot and heavy that he would often faint from the heat. In this scene, the Wicked Witch of the West was supposed to disappear into a trapdoor underneath the set as flames shot up from beneath. When the flames erupted too soon, the actress's hat and broom caught on fire. She suffered 2nd and 3rd degree burns all over her body and spent 6 weeks in the hospital. The filming process was a nightmare for Judy Garland, who played Dorothy. They required her to lose 12 pounds on a diet that consisted of pills and very little food. And studio executives would refer to her as the fat little pig with pigtails behind her back. And she was also given adrenaline shots so that she could stay awake, sometimes up to 72 hours in a row. And the actor who played the Scarecrow was left with permanent scars all over his face from the makeup and prosthetics he had to wear. And finally, the dog Toto actually made more money daily than the Munchkin actors made for the entire movie.
From the sound of it, it looked like it wasn't even really worth the cast member's time. He said every single cast member had a different problem. One had to suffer, one had to take adrenaline shots, one had to breathe in asbestos or whatever the hell that shit is. One had to freaking wear a metal tin suit, absorbing into his lungs, creating lung disease. One was passing out, one caught on fire. What? I wonder if they're all still alive today.
Whatever you do, do not look into the most disturbing case in history. Back in 2014, 2 young girls went hiking in Panama. Now, they were right out in the wilderness, camping, hiking up these big mountains. I mean, I don't know why you go to Panama to do that, but they never returned back. These right here are the last photos that were taken of the pair. As you can see in all of the photos, the pair appear to be having a nice time, taking some normal photos as you would. But then it cut out. Nothing. Radio silence for, well, an entire week. 7 days later, between 1 AM and 4 AM, take a look. These photos found on the pair's phone just containing very weird, abstract photos, weird stuff. But then it got worse. When authorities were searching through the photos, they found a photo of Lizanne, who was one of the girls. And in this photo, someone was holding her head, and there was blood in her hair. Now, what does this mean? We don't really know. 2 months later, they discovered something else. They discovered a pelvis and a foot, and after extensive tests, they discovered that the DNA on here matched that of the girls. So they went from having a nice time, taking great photos, to these extremely disturbing photos that no one knows what they are, to being unalived clearly, but still the full story remains completely unknown. What the hell happened?
Deadliest computer viruses in the world, part 4. This one is called horrorbob.exe, and yes, it's exactly what you think it is. So don't watch this if you get scared easily. So let's open this thing up and we get the usual dialogue box. This Trojan is no joke. Do you want to run it? That's what we do out here. First things first, computer restarts. Nothing new here. On boot up, we get stage 1. Background changes to this dripping blood, and this ain't even the tip of the iceberg. Wait a few seconds and you get stage 2. You guessed it. This creepy, crusty SpongeBob window opens up, and it says, SpongeBob is watching you. And also this other pop-up box over here. Let's see what it says. Your Windows has been infected by SpongeBob Horror Trojan 2.0. You cannot delete this Trojan, but you have 2 minutes to use your system. After 2 minutes, your PC will crash with an RSOD, which is a red screen of death. Below that, you got the rules. Pause if you want to read them. Alright, this is where the fun begins. Stage 3. Windows Media Player opens, playing this creepy background music called Cling Clang. Just listen to this. Then we get stage 4. Inverted colors start flashing as the music continues. Moving your mouse causes this glitch effect, which leads to stage 5. Screen starts to melt. Yeah, this is some nightmare fuel right here. Oh, another pop-up. Now you have 1 last minute to use your system. Okay, SpongeBob really ain't messing around, huh? Stage 6, screen shrinks like you're getting hypnotized in Get Out. Keeps getting smaller and smaller until SpongeBob pops back out to the front again. You can move the window around, but it won't get you far. Strap in, because you're in for a ride. Stage 6.5, screen just melts again for a bit. Oh, then we're hit with our final warning. Last 5 seconds to use your system. Okay, Sponge, let's see what you got. It has come. Time over. SpongeBob will now crash your PC forever. Okay. Behold stage 7. Screen fills up with 1,000,000 red X's as the music fades away. And Finally, reboot. Computer restarts and we're met with a red screen of death, which doesn't even exist on Windows. No matter how many times you reboot now, this is all you'll ever see. Your PC ran into a problem that it couldn't handle and now it needs to restart. Stop code SpongeBob is watching you? Never heard of that one before. Game, set, match. This computer is dust for life, and yeah, I'm definitely going to be checking my closet before I sleep now.
As soon as I hear the music and as soon as I lose control of my laptop, I'm just chucking it through the window. I'm not even gonna lie, I'm just like, alright, fuck this shit.
This is a true horrifying story of the tomb of Tutankhamun. I spoke about black magic in many of my episodes. I revealed the terror and the dangers behind its rituals, such as the books Al-Ghazali and Shams al-Ma'arif, the cursed houses, the buried spells, and a lot more. However, the age of when black magic was the biggest, the strongest, and the most dangerous was the age of the pharaohs in ancient Egypt. Black magic back then was nothing compared to what it is today. Allahu A'lam, but from the stories I've heard, I even believe that the jinns were a lot more powerful than what they are today. In Surah Taha, a chapter in the Quran, it talked about black magic and how it was so strange. Black magicians would use jinns to deceive people. They used to throw their ropes on the ground and they would move like snakes. All of these things were made by jinns back in the day of Prophet Musa. Many jinns used to worship these kings, and they would provide most of their energies to execute their demands. Tutankhamun is the last of them. He was the last pharaoh of the royal family at the end of the 18th dynasty. These kings were worshipped by jinns, and when they died, their tombs were still protected by jinns. Many people have died trying to open their tombs years after their death. And the reason behind it is these tombs are guarded by black magic. If you go near an untouched tomb from ancient Egypt, you will most probably die before cracking it open. During the grand opening of Tutankhamun's tomb, 13 people have died soon after the ceremony. The archaeologist Howard Carter was the lucky one that opened his tomb. But of course, he died as well a few years after that. Now, Tutankhamun died more than 3,000 years ago. A lot of people tried to open that tomb is because it carried a lot of treasure. The tomb itself was made of gold, and we have reports of people that died only from the 20th century from opening this tomb. But just imagine how many people have died trying to open this tomb throughout these 3,000 years. That's how strong the curse is. The jinns have protected his grave for thousands of years.
Thousands of years is crazy. Like, just let it go at that point. But I'm pretty sure I remember them saying he had like a lot of like treasures in there. So they probably put a good protection on that one. But anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. If you guys liked the video, remember to get to 1,000 likes this video. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate y'all. For those who's checked out my stream today, thank you for hopping on. Peace out. I'll catch y'all in the next one.